Well, hello, good morning everybody. Welcome back. Jiujitsu2000 here today. I want to talk about Alone. I want to talk about Season 6, Episode 8, Out Cold. If you haven't seen that episode, I highly recommend turning this video off. It will contain spoilers. Go check out that episode and then come back and watch my thoughts. So let's get started. He who conquers others is strong. He who conquers himself is mighty. That's the quote on the screen. I'm looking at my notes here. This was a quote by Lao Tzu. And for those of you who know Lao Tzu, he was a Chinese philosopher. He was the founder, if you will, for what they call Taoism. And Taoism, from what I understand, it's two things. It's a philosophy, a way of thought, and also considered a religion. So from what I understand, Taoism is very similar to, if you think about the Star Wars movies, how they have the Force and things are about nature and stuff like that. Very similar. So getting started, we're on day 43. 9:43 in the morning. There's 6 people left. Now, before I talk about Barry, I want to give everybody a quick reminder that they have been out here a month and a half, 43 days. You know, they're just short of that. So he's talking about that there's med checks tomorrow. He says there's no quit in me. And he's really talking about, you know, I'm going to do good in this show. I'm going to win. I'm going to do all this stuff. And he keeps telling himself that. And my initial thoughts are of seeing him do that is it's good that he's positive and it's good that he has confidence in himself, but I'm afraid that doing that might set yourself up for failure. You know, he's unaware of the fact that there's 6 other people. You know, 5 other people, including him, makes 6. He's unaware of that fact. And that lack of knowledge of how many people are out there could play tricks on your mind. So he sees a squirrel. He decides to take a shot at the squirrel. He misses. And he says, well, I'm not going to miss the second shot. So he takes the second shot and misses again. This just goes to show that, you know, a month and a half in, their reflexes and things aren't on point like they normally would be. So, you know, I probably would have missed that squirrel too. We're moving forward to the following day, day 44, 9 o'clock in the morning. We're still talking about Barry. The med checks happened. Everything's good to go with him as far as his body. But he's starting to have like almost this emotional time where, you know, he says some days are emotionally harder than other days. And he's really counting on his wife for some strength. He was hoping to see her today. He kind of had his hopes up, which is completely understandable. I feel for the guy. Moving forward, 2:17, talking about Nikki. It's 27 degrees Fahrenheit outside. She decides to sharpen her knife. She's got a flat stone, you know, a flat rock, and she spits on it and she's starting to grind her knife. But what happens? The spit is frozen on the rock. It's crazy. So she talks about the med checks also coming up and the fact that she's losing weight and that there is a possibility that she could be pulled. You know, we've seen that happen many a times on previous seasons. So she's got that legitimate concern. It's day 44. You know, they've been out there a long time suffering. So she decides it's time to get up. Time to get active. She goes and checks her snares, and to her surprise, there is a hair in her snare. She's very grateful for that. She decides that she's going to eat the contents of the stomach of the hare, which would be an effort to get starch fiber in her diet, because there's snow on the ground, things are hard to come by, you know, and these rabbits and large mammals, you know, moose, caribou, things like that, they would go out and eat the grasses and things, dig a little bit. So that effort that they do is not the effort that she has to do. The rabbit did that job. So she's thinking, you know, this is a good way of her to get a more balanced diet. I think it's very smart. I really do. I think she's a genius for thinking about that. And she's talking about that it's kind of nerve-wracking, thinking about the possibility of actually doing that. You know, putting it into reality that you're actually going to cut open a stomach of an animal that you snared and eat the contents, you know, after cooking it, of course. And she said that it's like yellow and brown and it didn't look very appealing, but yet she smells it and she says it smells really good. See, and I'm going to quote her. She said it smells like flowery woodland perfume. She said it smells and tastes just like that, with a hint of pine and a dash of this and that. And then she talks about, I think it was her, she said something to the effect about it would be nice to have some salt and vinegar chips right now. Which, and then she said if I could just have salt, that'd be great. And another thing about Nikki that I really liked that she said was that the fact that she's got faith. She says, I've got faith that things are gonna go well for me. And she is, of the three women out there, her, Wyona, and Michelle, I think Nikki's one of the stronger. Her and Wyona are probably the stronger ones, just my opinion. You know, and the fact that she's got faith that the land is going to produce, that God is going to provide, and all these things. I thought that was cool. Moving forward, we're still on day 44. It's 8 o'clock. We're talking about Wyona. I laugh every time I say her name because I know I butcher it. And she's such a cool person. And here I am butchering her name. So my apologies if you're watching. I'm terrible. She's had her med check. And she hasn't lost much weight since her last med check. So she's doing good things. Whatever she's got going on, she's doing well. Moving forward, day 45, 10 o'clock in the morning, she decides she's going to go check her snares. And what is in her snare? A squirrel. So she's kind of surprised. I get the feeling that she hasn't caught a squirrel in a snare before. And I think she even said that. But don't quote me. So let's move forward to day 45. We are officially a month and a half in. We're talking about Jordan. It's a little bit after 1 o'clock. There are 6 people left. And he says that he's lost 30 pounds in a month. You know, a pound a day. And he's been eating this moose meat. And he says what we kind of know, which is the meat that he's been eating is too lean. He's not getting the fat that he needs. He's not getting the oils. So he decides that he needs to adjust his game plan because the meat is obviously not working. He says, I'm going to go get some fishing done. Because, like we all know, the fish has those omega-3 oils in them and fats. So he decides to go fishing, and guess what? He catches a big fish, pulling it up. He actually has the fish on the rock. And the fish is flapping around, and it's really slippery and stuff, so he can't quite get to it quick enough. And the fish falls in, the water gets away. And not only does the fish get away, but his lure is gone, and his J-hook is gone, and something about his swivel is gone. How upsetting would that be? You know, just, I mean, he's just, oh my gosh. And he says, you know, 9 o'clock that night, he's talking about it again. He says, I've lost a pound a day and I'm eating land mammals and it's not working. So I'm starting to see for the first time in Alone on this series, this season 6, first time that we're actually seeing Jordan show some kind of chink, you know, and it's expected to happen. We're a month and a half in. Let's move forward to day 46. Just under 9 o'clock, 6 people left. We're talking about Nathan. So he decides to cut his hair with his knife. I thought that was cool. He did a good job. And he says he's gonna go check his gill net. He hasn't caught a fish in over a week. Now I'm wondering, is he not actively fishing, or are they just not hitting, or what's going on there? And he sees 2 trout, looks like 2 lake trout swimming, because he sees the water swirling and stuff, but they're not in his gill net, but he sees them swimming around. And he decides, I think, that he's gonna go fishing, and then he gets lightheaded and falls down, passes out, and he comes right back, but it's definitely an episode where he's kind of like having some problems. The people are starting to break down, and this happens every season around this time. Moving forward, day 47, 9 o'clock in the morning, talking about you-know-who, Wyona. Hope I'm saying it right. So she seems like she's in very good spirits. She's out there dancing and having a good time, and she's active. She decides to take that rabbit rope, and she looked like she had a ridge line with paracord between maybe 2 trees or something, and she took that rabbit rope and kind of threaded it through, and took some inner strands of the paracord and made a rabbit scarf, which was cool. She's talented. That woman's got some real skills. Let's move forward a little bit about noon, talking about Michelle. And I think she was in her shelter, and she's kind of talking to the camera and passes out. Wakes up and kind of talk a little more and passes out. She's starting to suffer lack of calories. This food deprivation thing is really taking its toll. Let's move forward. 12:58. We're still talking about her. She decides to go check her traps before the fox does. Smart woman. But we're starting to notice that she's lost. She can't find her snares. She's got blurry vision. She's constipated. She's very disoriented, a little bit depressed, very emotional. She's sweating. She starts to see stars. I mean, we're seeing all these classic signs of her suffering. And it's hard to see that. It's hard to watch that. It really is. And then she falls down. And I'm like, oh man. A prayer goes out to her at that moment from me. And then moving forward a little bit later, she said she hurt her tailbone. She said, I haven't had a bowel movement in 14 days. She has not had a bowel movement in 14 days. That's 2 weeks. That's scary. You could develop toxins in your body and things like that. She's afraid of not being able to give birth again. And I don't feel like she wanted to say all this, but she was kind of holding her cards tight about some personal stuff, and she let it out. Meaning, I guess when she had her child, some of the ligaments or whatever you want to call it down there were torn, and she only has the other half left on the other side of her body or whatever, and she's afraid that having a hard bowel movement trying to pass this bowel, she doesn't want to rip those and jeopardize her potential to have babies again in the future, which is completely understandable. I feel for her. She's such a strong woman, and she's got that fear of that happening, and all she wants to do, I think, is have another child, that's got to be such a hard thing to face. You're out there trying to do your thing on this survival show, and you want to win the money, and you got all these great intentions, and you got some good skills, and to have something like that that's completely out of your control, controlling you, that's got to be tough. So let's move forward to about 3 o'clock. We're talking about Nathan. He says, I've got enough food for dinner tonight and breakfast tomorrow, and I'm going to go check my gill net. So he goes out there to check his gill net, and he has a fish. I'm losing my page here. He has a fish in his gill net. Where am I? Where was I? Got to find where I was here. So he's got a fish in his gill net, and he's excited about it. It's a northern pike, and it's a large fish. And he made a note about, he made a point to mention that, this fish is large. he could have probably 8 other fish. So he's filleting the fish and he's gutting the fish, and guess what? He finds a smaller fish inside the stomach of this pike. So he decides to put that smaller fish in the soup. Smart man. So he's got, you know, it's just extended his stay a little longer by having this fish. Let's move forward to day 48, 2 o'clock in the morning, 6 people left. We're back to Michelle. She's got a fever again, and this is kind of weird, I thought, and I'm not knocking her, but she starts talking about, you know, I could die tonight. I could die in the night. It's 2 o'clock in the morning, and she starts talking about her final wishes. You know, she's really hurting. And then a few hours later, the morning, you know, she gets up. She's sitting there and she decides she's going to tap out. And she's very emotional. She's crying. You know, she gave everything she had. She did her best. And that's all you can ask for in a competitor on a show like this, is to go out there and let it all hang out. And I think Michelle really did that. You know, there's armchair quarterbacks that are probably watching my commentary gonna talk crap about Michelle. Hold your comments, man. This lady went out there and did her best. That's all she can do. And she said something that I took notice of, and she said, my body gave up before my mind could. Which is so true. We've seen that in previous seasons on this show. It's hard what they're doing. It's really, really tough. So now we're down to 5 people left. That was the end of the episode. We have Nikki, Wyona, Barry, Jordan, and Nathan. 5 people left. Who do you think's gonna win? You know, it's hard to say. I think, you know, they're all breaking down. Wyona looks strong. Nikki looks strong. Barry's starting to kind of break down a little bit. Jordan looks strong, but he showed a chink in his armor. Nathan, who knows? We don't know. So folks, I want to say thank you for joining me today on this video on my thoughts on season 6 episode 8 of Alone. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please feel free to leave your positive comments down below. Like this video, share this video, and as always, again folks, thanks for stopping by. I hope you have a beautiful day, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.